The flag platform at Xing'an Old Campus was very old. There were cracks across the concrete surface, and moss had grown along its corners. In daylight, it would have looked like nothing more than a school facility abandoned for many years. But after the field agents pried open the maintenance panel on the side of the platform, a narrow ladder leading downward appeared inside. The ladder was new. The metal handrails had no rust on them. Cold white light shone from below. When Lin Yao walked up to the flag platform, the broadcast on the athletic field was still repeating in a low voice. Please choose the closest version. Please complete return organization. Please allow your family to receive you with peace of mind. Those words mixed into the night wind like a distorted flag-raising ceremony. In the past, students had stood on the field and listened to the principal speak. Now, missing people sat in classrooms, being asked to organize themselves into a version that could put the system at ease. Lin Yao climbed down the ladder. Chen Shu went ahead of him, with 2 field agents behind. The basement was not large. It looked like an old air raid shelter. There may once have been a campus safety map on the wall, but now every wall was covered with white soundproofing panels. In the center of the room stood a black host machine. The host was connected to the campus broadcast, the classroom projectors, the logistics transfer data terminal, and several government process plug-in interfaces. The screen displayed Rebase 04. Missing person return rebase process. Received, 18. Rebase completed, 6. Under organization, 12. 6 people had completed rebase. Lin Yao's heart sank. That meant some people had already been sent away, or had already been rewritten into a state of clean return. Chen Shu asked, "Can we find out where those 6 went?" Qinwan accessed remotely and traced the records at high speed. The status of the 6 people appeared. Returned to family, 2. Transferred to social welfare support, 1. Transferred to White Tower family repair, 1. Transferred to slot follow-up observation, 1. Data sealed, 1. Data sealed. That status was extremely bad. Lin Yao asked, "If the data is sealed, where is the person?" Qinwan was silent for several seconds. "There is no location. Only a data status." Chen Shu's expression changed. After a person was rebased, if the system left only a data status and no human location, it might mean they had been completely transferred into another system. They might even have become a new slot. Lin Yao looked at the host machine. "Stop the rebase first." Yi Jiwei reminded him remotely, "We cannot cut the host directly. If it is still outputting to the people on the second floor, a sudden interruption may cause echo confusion." Lin Yao nodded. "Then replace the output." He entered a new return prompt into the terminal beside the host. It was not a long rule. It was only 4 sentences. You may go home before you have organized everything. You may speak slowly. If you cannot explain it clearly, that does not mean you have failed. No one is allowed to choose the most convenient version for you. Yi Jiwei switched the rebase broadcast output to those 4 sentences. Across the athletic field and inside the classrooms, the broadcast changed. The oppressive voice vanished. In its place came a calm, short prompt that did not rush anyone. In the second-floor classroom, the missing people who had still been trembling slowly quieted down. Some raised their heads and listened. Some lowered their heads and cried. Some tore up the forms they had already checked. The rebase host issued a warning. Output content unauthorized. Return organization process obstructed. Data alignment rate declining. Lin Yao looked at the 4 words data alignment rate and gave a cold laugh. Good. It should decline. People were never supposed to be aligned. But Rebase 04 was not so easy to stop. A new option appeared on the host. Activate Family Reassurance Mode? A simplified return statement will be pushed to family members to reduce family conflict. Xinhuan said urgently, do not let it push that out. Once family members received a simplified return statement, they might assume the child had already completed organization, that there was no need to ask further questions, and no need to continue the missing person case. They might even pressure the child to speak according to that version. Lin Yao immediately wrote down a new rule. Family reassurance must not be built on rewriting the missing person's account. Family members may receive care guidance, but may not receive substitute narration. Return statements must note, the current account may be incomplete. Do not force questions. Do not answer on their behalf. The host reported another error. Family reassurance mode unable to generate simplified conclusion. Please select substitute output. Lin Yao gave it a substitute output. After your family member returns, they may not be able to explain things clearly for the time being. Please confirm safety, sleep, food, and medical needs first. Do not demand a complete answer immediately. Do not answer the reason for disappearance on their behalf. If assistance is needed, contact the official window. This was not a lie meant to reassure the family. It was a way to let the family know how to hold the incomplete. A system prompt surfaced. Family reassurance mode has been rewritten as family receiving guidance. New rule added, families need to receive and support, not provide substitute narration. But the host still had one final layer. A list suddenly appeared on the screen. Completed rebase data locked. 6 serial numbers surfaced. Beside one number, it said, slot adaptation complete. Beside another, it said, White Tower family repair adaptation. Beside the third, it said, data sealed, awaiting delivery. Lin Yao immediately asked, delivery to whom? Xinhuan traced the data terminal. In the next second, her face went pale. To an old interface belonging to the second research group. After Yichuan connected remotely, he was silent for a few seconds. That interface has already been disabled. Xinhuan said, but it is still accepting data. Yichuan's voice sank. Interface name? Return Baseline Lab. Return Baseline Laboratory. The second research group's former Return Baseline Laboratory. This proved that the rebase process was not only something Luo Wence or Anshu had privately built. It had used an old research interface of the second research group. Or at least it had used the data structure left behind by that interface. Yichuan was silent for a long time. It was an old project. Originally, it was used to study identity stability after high synchronization people returned to reality. Lin Yao's voice was cold. You called it identity stability. Now it has become rebase. Yichuan did not defend himself. I will seal it. Chen Shu said coldly, not you will seal it. Seal it now. Yichuan immediately started interface sealing from the second research group side. But at the same time, the Rebase 04 host began a countdown. Data delivery countdown, 2 o'clock. Xinhuan said, if the second research group interface is not sealed fast enough, the data will be delivered. Lin Yao asked, what data? The completed rebase subjects simplified accounts, family authorizations, disappearance reasons, correction status, and data usable for the return baseline model. Once that data entered the model, it would become the future basis for deciding how missing people should cleanly return. In other words, the 6 rebased people would be used to train more rebasing. Lin Yao could not let that happen. He wrote in the responsibility register. Data of completed rebase subjects must not be used as model baseline. Compressed accounts must not be used as real return samples. Erroneous family authorization must not be used as research consent. Before the missing person confirms again, no rebase data may be delivered. Light from the responsibility register fell over the host. Rebase 04 flickered violently. Delivery authorization insufficient. Research consent source erroneous. Family authorization cannot replace research consent. Rebase data authenticity insufficient. The countdown stopped. At the same time, He-Chuan completed the sealing of the old second research group interface. Return baseline lab has been sealed. Data delivery terminated. Lin Yao let out a breath. But the Rebase 04 host screen suddenly lit with a text message from Luo Wence. You stopped the delivery. But the 6 people who completed Rebase already believe their convenient versions. Do you want to save them, or respect the selves they now believe in? Lin Yao looked at that sentence and fell silent. It was an extremely difficult question. If a person had already been rebased, and already believed the simplified version, directly telling them you were rewritten might cause collapse. But if no one told them, they might live forever inside the version that had been forced onto them. This was not something violence could solve. It was not something a single withdrawal could handle. Lin Yao said quietly, establish post-rebase care. Qinwan looked at him. Lin Yao said, do not forcibly tear apart the version they currently believe. But preserve a channel for true fragments to recover. Tell them that if memories return in the future, or if they feel the version is wrong, they may seek help again. They do not need to overthrow themselves immediately. And they should not be sealed forever inside the convenient version. He wrote. Post-rebase care. Do not immediately force denial of the existing account. Preserve the right to narrate again, supplement memories, and withdraw the simplified version. Prohibit treating the rebased version as an unchangeable official conclusion. All return accounts must be marked, may be supplemented, may be corrected, may be delayed. A system prompt surfaced. New category added, post-rebase care. Effect, preserves future recovery and correction channels for those who have completed rebase. Rebase 04 core degraded. The basement host finally stopped outputting. Rebase 04 no longer operated. But the problem Luo Wence left behind did not disappear. Some people had already been rewritten. Saving them did not mean shoving the truth back into them by force. It meant allowing them to slowly recover their own account in the future. Lin Yao suddenly felt that the reality of the third season was more difficult than any battlefield inside the game. Because the enemy did not merely take people away. He would also give people a version that seemed able to help them survive. And what you had to do was make sure truth still had a path back, without destroying the fragile support they were holding in that moment. After the Rebase 04 host stopped, the lights in Xing'an Old Campus slowly returned to normal. The oppressive broadcast disappeared. The missing people in the second-floor classroom were brought out one by one. The field team did not make them face their families immediately. Lin Yao insisted on this. Many people assumed that after a missing person was rescued, the first thing to do was let them meet their family. But people who had been through the rebase process were not ready. Their families were not ready either. Without a buffer in the middle, reunion could become another interrogation. Where did you go? Why did you not come back? Were you there voluntarily? Were you hurt? Do you still recognize us? Every question came from love. But every question could force the person who had just been rescued to shrink back into the convenient version. So Lin Yao established a new return process. Not rebase. Return buffering. Step 1. Confirm physical safety. Step 2. Confirm whether the returnee is willing to meet family. Step 3. Inform family members not to force a complete account. Step 4. Allow the returnee to use a temporary name, or to speak only partially. Step 5. Mark all official records as supplementable and correctable. Step 6. Follow-up support will be diverted through the SafePoint, social workers, medical care, or field team. He wrote a title on the blackboard. Return is not filing. Those 6 words made many people pause. Chen Shu looked at them and nodded. This should go into the process coordination network. Xinhuan said, family should see it too. Lin Yao nodded. Soon, the family-facing prompt was written. The person has returned. That does not mean the matter has already been organized. Please confirm safety first. Do not force a complete account. They may be unable to explain clearly. They may speak incompletely. Their account may be inconsistent. This does not mean they are lying. Do not choose the most convenient version for them. If they say they want to rest or speak later, please let them stop first. Official records can be supplemented and corrected later. This prompt was sent to every family member at the scene. Fang Yuan's mother was among the first to arrive. She almost ran into the campus. When she saw her daughter, her whole body nearly collapsed to her knees. Fang Yuan also cried. But she did not rush over immediately. She looked at her mother, and the first thing she said was, "Mom, I did not go voluntarily." Her mother cried so hard she could not speak. She could only nod. Xinhuan reminded her softly from the side, "Do not ask details yet." Fang Yuan's mother nodded hard. "I will not ask. It is enough that you came back." Fang Yuan cried even harder. But this time, there was no pressed-down terror in her crying like the kind produced by the rebase process. She was not being required to cleanly return. She had simply returned. Another boy did not want to see his father. He was willing only to let a social worker pass on one sentence first. "I am alive, but I do not want to see you right now." According to an ordinary imagination of family, this might have been treated as unfilial or evasive. But in tonight's process, it was respected. Because return did not mean immediately returning to the original family relationship. What had happened during the disappearance was still unclear. Whether the home was safe was also unclear. So he had the right not to meet for now. Lin Yao added this to the process. Returnees may temporarily postpone family meetings. Family anxiety must be supported, but must not override the returnee's safety wishes. This rule was difficult. Because family members were victims too. But the suffering of family members could not be used to push the returnee back into a relationship that might not be safe. The 6 people who had completed rebase were even more complicated. 2 of them had already been sent back to their families. 1 had been transferred to social welfare support. 1 had been transferred to White Tower Family Repair. 1 had been transferred to slot follow-up observation. 1 had data sealed, with location unknown. Chen Shu immediately sent people to trace them. The person sent to White Tower Family Repair was found quickly. He was a male university student named Yi Changyu. He had already returned home and had given his parents a very smooth account. Too much pressure. Left voluntarily. Divine domain anxiety. No harm suffered. Willing to accept follow-up stability support. Every sentence sounded like a standard answer from the return organization form. His parents had originally felt relieved. But when the field team and social worker contacted him according to the post-rebase care process, Yi Changyu was silent for a very long time. In the end, he asked only one question. "If I remember something different later, can I change it?" The social worker answered according to the process. "Yes. Your account can be supplemented and corrected. You do not have to maintain today's version forever. On the other end of the phone, Yi Chengyu cried. He did not immediately overturn his own version. But he knew he still had the right to change his words. This was the first success of post-rebase care. It was not the immediate recovery of truth. It was making sure truth could return in the future. The person transferred to slot follow-up observation was in a much more urgent situation. His data showed that he had been sent to a private rehabilitation center. When Shenshu sent field agents there, the person was already gone. Only a new code was left at the scene. Slot RB02. Rebase correction position number 2. This meant the rebase process could transform missing people into new correction positions. First erase their experience. Then let them become someone else's consent field. When Lin Yao saw that line, his eyes went completely cold. Rebase and slot had connected. White Tower, Anshu, the hospital, the government, logistics, and rebase, every system was forming a closed loop. If a missing person was not rescued, they would be transferred. After transfer, they would enter rebase. After rebase, they could go home, go to social welfare, go to White Tower, or become a slot. Once they became a slot, they could complete correction on behalf of someone else. This was not a single-point crime. This was a real-world correction production line. Lin Yao wrote those 4 words into the responsibility register. Real-world correction production line. Process: erroneous authorization, safe transfer, rebase organization, convenient return or slot conversion or data model delivery. Core harm: turns missing people, family members, the dead, subsidies, medical care, and government data into correction materials. The responsibility register lit with a heavy glow. A system prompt surfaced. Third season mainline risk upgraded, real-world correction production line. Current nodes dismantled, local White Tower, Anshu whitelist, Mingda Hospital, South District Government window, rebase 04. Undismantled nodes, slot RB, GovStable remnants, deep lifecycle data integration, Luo Wence main control terminal. Lin Yao looked at the undismantled nodes, and exhaustion almost pressed through his body. Since the beginning of the 3rd season, they had been putting out fires non-stop. Every dismantled point revealed another line. Every group of people rescued revealed that more people had already been transferred away. But tonight, at least one thing was different. The process coordination network had been established. The text firewall had been established. Government, hospitals, field teams, social welfare, household registration, and education were no longer entirely passive. If Luo Wence tried to push a wrong process now, it would at least hit more points of resistance. This was the first time the real-world defense line had truly begun to form a network. At 3 in the morning, the missing people were initially settled. Fang Yuan and several unrebased people were sent to a temporary safe placement site. The post-rebase care list was established. The trace of slot RB02 began. The rebase 04 host was sealed. Xin'an Old Campus was listed as a real-world correction production line node. Lin Yao sat at the edge of the athletic field and watched the sky begin to pale. Songji sat beside him, his complexion still very poor. "Can you still hold on?" Lin Yao did not answer immediately. He looked at the empty flag platform. "Even if I cannot, I have to." Songji said quietly, "There are more lines now." "I know." "No." Songji shook his head. "Not the enemy's lines. Our lines." Lin Yao looked at him. Songji said, "In the past, many lines all led toward Luo Wence. Now, some lines will stop. Some will lead to the process coordination network. Some will lead to the safe point. Some will lead to hospitals, social workers, and the field team. They are not all coming to you." Lin Yao was stunned for a moment. This was the first time in the third season that someone told him, not all responsibility was on him. The Obsidian safe point was no longer an isolated point. It had an outer network now. Although it was still fragile. Although wind leaked through everywhere. It existed. Before dawn, the metal box surfaced a new system prompt. Real-world defense line has initially formed a network. Obsidian safe point load decreasing. Process coordination network has taken over part of the outer layer risk. Medical diversion protocol, administrative withdrawal, identity layering, and return buffering have been connected. Third season middle mainline complete, from single point rescue into city defense line. Lin Yao looked at that line and exhaled slowly. The third season had finally moved beyond chasing Luo Wence from fire to fire, and into the stage of building a city defense line. But then, at the end of the system prompt, another line surfaced. Next mainline warning, Luo Wence will activate main control terminal cleansing. Objective, erase all exposed node responsibility lines. Lin Yao's eyes darkened again. Main control terminal cleansing. Luo Wence was finally beginning to clean his tracks. That meant the next step was not them finding nodes. It would be a fight with Luo Wence over the evidence that every responsibility line had ever existed. Anshu. White Tower. Mingda. Government plugins. Rebase. Slot. All sealed data, all statements from rescued people, all reports from the process coordination network might become cleansing targets. The second half of the third season was about to enter a war to defend evidence. The first sign of main control terminal cleansing was not an alarm. It was silence. At 4:17 in the morning, the high-sensitivity report zone of the process coordination network suddenly stopped updating. It was not that there were no new incidents. It was that all pending reports had turned gray. Data synchronizing. Temporarily unavailable for viewing. Xinhuan noticed the abnormality first. She had been organizing the return buffering list from Xing'an Old Campus when she suddenly saw the high-sensitivity summaries on the screen lock one after another. White Tower clues. Anshu outsourcing nodes. Mingda Hospital Slot Observation Group. South District Stability Certificate. Lifecycle Data Integration Service. Rebase 04. All of them entered synchronizing. Her expression changed instantly. Lin Yao. Lin Yao had just stood up when the metal box vibrated at the same time. Warning, main control terminal cleansing has begun. Targets, responsibility lines, report summaries, sealed nodes, erroneous document withdrawal records. Cleansing methods, synchronization reorganization, version overwrite, erroneous attribution, permission recall. Priority protection, responsibility register, process coordination network version records, slot list, rebase data, dead person whitelist, supplementary document withdrawal records. Lin Yao looked at the prompt, and all sleepiness vanished. Luo Wence had not immediately attacked people. He was attacking evidence. This was more dangerous than a new field node. As long as the responsibility lines were washed away, Anshu could say the data abnormality had been a misunderstanding. White Tower could say the tower heart was only a coarse flaw. Mingda could say basement level 2 was chaotic outsourced equipment management. The government supplementary documents could be called a regional misdelivery. Rebase could be called a return support center. Slot could vanish into a code that had never existed. By then, all the people who had been rescued would be required to prove their injuries all over again. And many of them could not explain clearly at all. This was the purpose of cleansing. Not making harm never happen. Making harm impossible to prove. Lin Yao immediately connected Tang Jinghun, Chen Shu, He Chuan, Shen Jibai, Lu Qingxin, and Yi Jiwei. Almost none of them had slept. Or rather, no one had truly slept in the past several days. Tang Jingheng's voice carried restrained anger. The city government side has a problem too. The version records of the process coordination network have been marked for synchronization reorganization. Someone is trying to change early erroneous prompts into test drafts. Chen Shu followed. In the third field team sealing archive, parts of the attachments from the disabled mall and livestream warehouse have been marked as duplicate data and scheduled for cleanup. Shinji Bai said coldly, someone is trying to change the sealed records from Mingda Basement Level 2 into equipment maintenance records. He Chuan's voice was even deeper. The second research group old interface sealing record is being rolled back. Someone wants to change Return Baseline Lab into an interface that was disabled and received no data. Xinhuan looked at abnormality after abnormality, and her heart went cold. It was not a single-point attack. It was multi-system synchronized cleansing. And every cleansing action was not crude. It was not deletion. It was renaming. It was archiving. It was reorganization. It was version overwrite. It was taking words with responsibility in them and replacing them with harmless words. Correction position became temporary assisting personnel. Dead person whitelist became historical stability sample. Erroneous supplementary document became test notification. White Tower heart became core support volunteer. Rebase became return account organization. Safe transfer disguise became high-risk protective referral. The text firewall had once prevented wrong words from entering processes. Now, Luo Wence was using text in reverse, changing the skin of his crimes. Lin Yao wrote on the blackboard at Xingang Old Campus. Cleansing is not deletion. It is rewriting responsibility words. This sentence made everyone fall silent. Because it was exactly right. Luo Wence knew that directly deleting data would leave traces. So he chose to rewrite words. He took words that could hold someone accountable and changed them into words administration could accept. He changed harm into process. He changed control into support. He changed missing people into protected assistance personnel. He changed correction positions into temporary assisting personnel. He changed misuse of the dead into historical samples. In this way, even if the data still existed, it lost its edge. Lu Qingsun said, "We need to freeze the original names." Shinji Bai added, "A hospital site can seal them as medical adverse events." Tang Jingheng said, "The city government can activate data security incident preservation." He Chuan said, "The second research group has a research data sealing procedure." Chen Shu said, "The field sealing archive has on-site evidence locks." Lin Yao nodded. "But that is not enough. We need to connect each separate seal into the same responsibility chain. We cannot only protect them separately. Because he will rename them one by one." That was the most dangerous part of main control terminal cleansing. If every unit sealed records on its own, Luo Wence could use different harmless names in different systems. For example, White Tower might call it Core Support Volunteer, the hospital might call it Temporary Assistance, and the government might call it High-Risk Protective Referral. With different names, the responsibility line would break. So they had to establish a cross-system responsibility word comparison table. Xinhuan immediately opened a table. Title: Responsibility Word Sealing Table. Column 1, Original Harm Term. Column 2, Cleansed Substitute Term. Column 3, Systems Involved. Column 4, Corresponding Evidence. Column 5, Responsible Person or Responsible Unit. Column 6, Non-overwritable version. Lin Yao filled in the first row. Correction position to temporary assisting personnel. Involved systems: Mingda Hospital, White Tower, Rebase, Slot. Evidence: Slot 17 document, basement nuclear medicine area screenshots, blank case files, slot observation group. Second row. Dead person whitelist to historical stability sample. Involved systems, Anshu data, Mingda, lifecycle data integration, funeral window. Evidence, Anshu whitelist, real-world appeasement roster, He Wenhao's father data prompt. Third row. Safe transfer disguise to high-risk protective referral. Involved systems, missing person assistance, logistics transfer, GovStableTemp. Evidence, Fong Yuan, cold chain truck, temporary stability pods, DST rebase 04. Fourth row. Rebase to return account organization. Involved systems, Rebase 04, Xingang Old Campus, Second Research Group Old Interface. Evidence, Return Organization Form, Flag Platform Host, Return Baseline Lab Sealing Record. Fifth row. Stability Certificate to Temporary Service Confirmation. Involved systems, South District Citizen Service Center, Self-Service Machine Plugin, Social Welfare, Education, Medical Referral. Evidence, 27 certificates, cancellation records, batch synchronization withdrawal records. As soon as this table was created, the metal box lit up. Responsibility word sealing table formed. Effect, reduces the main control terminal's ability to break responsibility lines through renaming. New rule added, harm terms must not be overwritten by harmless terms. Warning, the opponent will attempt to attack version sources. Sure enough, in the next second, a warning appeared in the Process Coordination Network version records. Responsibility word sealing table source unauthorized. Recommended marking, draft. Tang Jinghong's face darkened. It is attacking the source. Lin Yao said, multi-party signatures. Not only electronic signatures. Responsibility signatures. Each row would be signed by the corresponding witnessing units. Correction position, Mingda Hospital Xinjibai, the 3rd Field Teams Qinshu, Obsidian SafePoints Lin Yao, and Yi Jiwei. Dead person whitelist, Gu Mingxia, Qin Wan, the Data Governance Representative, and the Social Affairs Bureau window. Safe transfer disguise, the 3rd Field Team, Police Support, Logistics Management, and Fong Yuan's later confirmation. Rebase, the 3rd Field Team, Qin Wan, witness summaries from rescued missing people, and Yichuan sealing of the 2nd Research Group interface. Stability Certificate, Tang Jinghong, the Service Center Director, and the Data Governance Representative. Lin Yao wrote in the Responsibility Register. Multi-party witnessing cannot be rolled back by a single system. Responsibility word sealing uses the name from the earliest discovery as the standard. Later harmless renaming must preserve comparison. Cleansed terms must not replace original harm terms. Light from the responsibility register entered the process coordination network. Each system began synchronously locking versions. This time, what was locked was not case data. It was words. Because words determined whether responsibility could be seen. For the first time, Luo Wence was forced to pause inside the main control terminal cleansing. But soon, he changed direction. Inside Anshu's sealed archive, a batch of data was marked. Deletion required for personal information protection. White Tower backend data was marked. Minor data should be retained with minimization. Parts of Mingda Hospital records were marked. Patient privacy, cross-unit circulation restricted. Government supplementary document data was marked. Consent withdrawn, deletion required. Xinwan looked at those tags, and her expression shifted. He is using correct rules to counterattack. Personal information protection. Data minimization for minors. Patient privacy. Deletion after withdrawal of consent. Those principles were all correct. But Luo Wence was using them to erase evidence. This was harder to handle than renaming. Because they could not oppose privacy protection. They could not oppose data minimization. They could not oppose withdrawal of consent. But they also could not let evidence of harm be deleted. Lin Yao closed his eyes for a moment. This was another real-world boundary. Protecting privacy did not equal erasing responsibility. He wrote on the blackboard. Privacy protection and responsibility sealing must be separated. Case identifying data may be minimized, de-identified, and permission restricted. But harmful acts, responsibility lines, system operation records, and evidence of erroneous processes must not be deleted in the name of privacy. Withdrawal of consent withdraws future use. It does not erase evidence of harm that has already occurred. Lu Qingxin immediately said, medical ethics supports this. The data governance representative also nodded. That is the correct separation. Personal information can be protected. Responsibility cannot disappear. Tang Jingheng quickly added this to the data governance chapter of the Process Coordination Network. A system prompt surfaced. New rule added, privacy protection and responsibility sealing separated. Effect, reduces the opponent's ability to erase responsibility lines using personal information, minors, medical privacy, or withdrawal as reasons. Main control terminal cleansing obstructed. The cleansing speed across the systems began to slow. The gray high sensitivity reports gradually recovered. But several lines still showed abnormalities. One of them was data sealed completed rebase subject, location unknown. It was the person from rebase 04 who had been marked data sealed and whose location had disappeared. During the cleansing process, that data line had almost been wiped completely. Only one code remained. RB06. Xinhuan looked at it and said quietly, if we had been a little slower, this person really would have been nothing but a code. Lin Yao said, list RB06 as highest priority. The main control terminal cleansing had been temporarily blocked. But it also exposed one thing. What Luo Wence most wanted to cleanse was not necessarily all data. It was certain key people. RB06 very likely knew more about the rebase main control terminal. Or he himself was the core of the next stage of cleansing. After the responsibility word sealing table was established, the entire city defense line had a shared language for the first time. That did not sound like a combat upgrade. It did not sound like a system reward. But it was more important than any weapon. Because over the past few days, Luo Wence's greatest advantage had not only been that he could manipulate people. It was that he could rename things. Call correction stability. Call control support. Call transfer protection. Call rebase organization. Call misuse of the dead historical samples. Call underage Tower Hearts Core support volunteers. Call erroneous administrative consent process supplementation. Every renaming made people on site hesitate. Every hesitation gave him more time. Now, the responsibility word sealing table fixed those words in place. Not for propaganda. But so every unit would know that certain seemingly gentle terms corresponded to confirmed harmful acts. Tang Jingheng soon had the Process Coordination Network build a responsibility word query function. But Lin Yao insisted it could not be completely public to all citizens. Not because it needed to be secret, but because some terms were too triggering and might cause echo contamination in victims. So the query was divided into 3 layers. The first layer was the public version. It showed only simplified prompts. For example, if you see stability confirmation, supplementary documents to avoid qualification delay, safe transfer, or return organization, please verify the official source first. The second layer was the window version. It was for schools, social welfare, medical care, and civil service windows. It showed the risks the term might correspond to, processes that should be stopped, and formal substitute wording. The third layer was the responsible person version. It was for field agents, data governance, medical ethics, and investigative units. It showed complete comparisons, evidence sources, and responsibility chains. This was data layering applied to language. Not everyone needed to see every harmful term. But the people who needed to process them had to be able to see them. Xinhuan added a column to the table. Safe substitute expression. This column was very important. If they only prohibited terms, people on site would not know what to say. Then they might return to vague administrative language again. For example, dangerous term, stability confirmation. Substitute expression, confirm whether a suspicious notice was received, and explain that not filling it out will not affect existing services. Dangerous term, safe transfer. Substitute expression, confirm whether the person knows the destination and responsible party, and whether they are willing to go. Dangerous term, return organization. Substitute expression, allow incomplete account, later supplementation permitted. Dangerous term, historical stability sample. Substitute expression, use of deceased person's data requires review and must not serve as a living person's qualification baseline. Dangerous term, core support volunteer. Substitute expression, no personal experience may be fixed as someone else's standard. After Xinjibai saw the medical version, he added one sentence. For the hospital side, add, do not say the patient has stabilized. Lu Qingxin asked, then what should we say? Xinjibai answered, vital signs are temporarily steady. Emotion has temporarily decreased. Sleep has improved. Self-harm risk has lowered. Say exactly what you mean. Do not use the word stability to wrap everything. Lin Yao nodded. This was concretization. Luo Wence liked abstract words. Because abstract words could stretch. Stability could mean asleep, or it could mean obedient. Support could mean companionship, or it could mean control. Protection could mean preventing harm, or it could mean transfer. So the language of the defense line had to be concrete. The Process Coordination Network soon adopted this as the second judgment standard for the text firewall. If something can be said concretely, do not use abstract terms that can be corrected into something else. The first standard was, safe language increases choices, dangerous language narrows choices. The second standard was, describe risks and actions concretely, and do not wrap them in abstract stability. After seeing this, the data governance representative said, this will greatly reduce black box model intervention. Because black box models loved abstract indicators most. Stability index. Risk score. Return degree. Cooperation level. Once language became concrete, it was much harder for the model to compress a person into a single score. But Anshu Legal soon raised an objection. In the follow-up written opinion after the meeting, he wrote, the responsibility word ceiling table may create prejudgment before adjudication and affect corporate reputation. Before judicial confirmation, neutral descriptions are recommended, such as disputed process, pending clarification referral, or temporary sample. Tang Jinghong forwarded this opinion to Lin Yao. After Lin Yao read it, he did not get angry. This was exactly part of cleansing. Changing responsibility words into neutral words. It looked fair. In reality, it blurred everything. He replied, responsibility word ceiling is not judicial conviction. It is safety handling nomenclature. During safety handling, overly neutral terms may cause on-site personnel to underestimate risk. External legal documents may mark suspected in pending investigation, but on-site risk terms must not be replaced with harmless terms. Tang Jinghong adopted it. So the responsibility word ceiling table gained one more note. Legal determination may wait for investigation. Safety naming must not be made harmless. The third field team supported this sentence strongly. Xin Shu said, if everything on site was called a disputed process, people would already have been transported away. Lin Yao agreed deeply. Safety naming had to be clear enough. Because people on site had no time to guess. That afternoon, the responsibility word ceiling table began to be pushed to various windows. The first place it took effect was a high school. The school counseling office received an invitation for an external lecture. The topic was Return Organization and Family Support for Students with Divine Domain Anxiety. If this had happened yesterday, it might have been treated as a normal lecture. But the text firewall marked Return Organization in red. The window version responsibility word prompt appeared. Return organization may correspond to the rebase process. Confirm whether students are being asked to provide simplified accounts, stability confirmation, or family authorization. The school reported it immediately. After tracing, they discovered that although the lecture contractor was not White Tower, the handouts used to form from the same source as Rebase 04. The incident was stopped in time. The second place was a social welfare center. The center received a suggestion from outsourced customer service, asking them to mark people who had withdrawn stability confirmation as needing follow-up. The text firewall marked Withdrew Stability Confirmation in red. The prompt said, Withdrawal must not become a risk label. Please change to Erroneous Document Withdrawn, no additional negative marking required. The Social Welfare Center changed it accordingly. The third place was the Mingda Hospital Sleep Center. A new audio track description said, Assist patients in stopping resistance to sleep. When Xin Jibai saw the words stopping resistance, he returned it directly. He required it to be changed to Assist patients in reducing pre-sleep anxiety, and provide breathing and environmental adjustment. These things looked small. But Lin Yao knew they meant the city defense line was beginning to operate on its own. Not every matter required him to be personally present. Not every trap needed to wait until someone had been sent into a basement before being dismantled. The text firewall began intercepting wrong processes at the entrance. A system prompt surfaced. Initial success in automatic interception by the city defense line. Obsidian safe point load continues to decrease. Luo Wence main control terminal cleansing progress obstructed. Warning, opponent transferring into evidence contamination strategy. Evidence contamination. Not cleansing. Contamination. Xinhuan soon found the first example. Inside Rebase 04 sealed data, a new file had been inserted. The file time was forged to make it look like last night. The content was Statement of Voluntary Participation in Return Organization Course by Returnees. There were 12 names on it. One of them was Fong Yuan. In the signature field, there was even her electronic signature. Xinhuan immediately contacted Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan stated clearly that she had never signed this statement. Last night, she had not even known what Rebase 04 was. Lin Yao looked at the forged statement, and his heart went cold. After cleansing failed, Luo Wence had begun to add false evidence. If he could not erase responsibility, he would manufacture proof of voluntariness. That would be the next battle. Not protecting existing evidence. Identifying false evidence. The responsibility word ceiling table had preserved the words. Next, they had to preserve the timeline.